I think it is live.
Yay!
Let's double check this. Yay. Yes, okay, we're live.
Oh, you got the notification.
I have the Facebook app pulled up on my phone. Wait, let's double check this. But, oh no. For some reason, okay, there it goes. All right. Good morning. Nancy,
Good morning.
hi. Thank you for being on here. And for anybody who's watching live, welcome. I'm so excited to be here with my client, Nancy. Nancy is so amazing, and I can't wait to share with y'all how she made total peace with food in her body in just like less than 2 months. You've made massive progress of late, and so I can't wait for you to share your story with everybody. So this is going to be great for people who have yo-yo dieted or struggled with weight their entire lives, struggled with body confidence, food guilt, food shame, binge eating, emotional eating. If that resonates with anybody, this is going to be extremely valuable for you. So Nancy's going to let you in on the process, but welcome, Nancy. Will you introduce yourself? Let us know who you are, where you are, what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Nancy Gwyn. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've lived here my whole life. And I ran into Maria in another Facebook group, and she talked about food freedom. And I was like, what is that? I don't understand that, but I want it. I don't want to feel trapped around food and that it kind of controls me. Something I've struggled with my whole life. And it all comes down to my relationship with food, but also my relationship with myself and my body. And it's all tied together, I'm learning. So it's a continuous process, but I think we've been working together, like 10 weeks, maybe?
Yeah.
2 months. And my life has changed. It's been amazing.
It has been amazing. You've put in the work and it has paid off. So yeah, like that feeling of food controls me. I think that a lot of people that makes sense to a lot of people. And you even wrote on your call application before we started working together, that feeling of like food addiction, like food has power over you. Can you explain more of your experience there, Nancy? Tell us like what diets you tried and what your relationship with food was like in the past.
Well, I think all of us have dieted and yo-yo dieted and done every diet that you can think of. I've done it. I've done the grapefruit diet. I've done Weight Watchers. I've done Nutrisystem. I've done it all, and none of it worked because it's not supposed to. What did you say? Like 98% is the failure rate.
That's right.
What happens is you start to shame yourself, and you start to put that on yourself and say, I don't have the willpower to resist these foods, when in actuality, something's happening in your body where you are actually like your body's surviving. It's trying to, if you're restricting food, it's going to naturally crave that food. So that's what was happening, is like I had totally abandoned hunger cues in my body and not trusting myself around food. And so I would restrict and then I would binge. And that's where at night I would binge, because I would be like, oh my gosh, there's chips or cake around. And then I would eat it. I would feel like I had zero control, kind of have an out of body experience in that moment where I'm like, I would come back to myself, and then the shame and the guilt would come. Yeah. And I would feel like I'm never going to get over this. This is always going to be something I'm going to struggle with. And then, food freedom comes and intuitive eating, and you really start to understand that your body actually does a lot, and we need to trust it.
Really. Yeah, there is a real lack of self-trust with food, because I think that we try so hard to stick to these plans and programs, and then when we inevitably fall off the plan and the program, it's like we do feel shame. We feel like we can't trust ourselves around food. But I want to talk about that shame piece. And we talked right before we hopped on this live, how yes, it is true. It's been proven in the research that diets have like a 95+% failure rate, meaning that most people who go on a diet, they end up gaining all the weight. If they do lose weight, they end up gaining it all back and then some.
Yeah.
And so the diet and weight loss industry is worth over $72 billion. And yet it has this insane failure rate. So in any other industry with a product that had that high of a failure rate, there would be class action lawsuits. There would be like terrible reviews all over the internet, right? Like nobody would buy these things. They wouldn't. So why is it different with the diet and weight loss industry? And the reason is the gaslighting. It's they make you feel like it is your fault, when in reality it's a broken system. It's a broken product. So Nancy now has a deep understanding of what happens in the body when we're dieting and in the brain when we're dieting. And so for anyone watching, what Nancy you described it really well. Like when we restrict our food, when we count, when we track, when we measure, the body fights back because it thinks that we're in a famine. And so you might lose some weight short term, but ultimately what happens is the metabolism slows and the body stores fat. And then psychologically, when we tell ourselves we can't have these foods or food groups, it's crazy making. It makes us fixate on food. And that's not because we're broken. It's because our bodies are really hungry. Our bodies are starving. And our brains can't handle that level of like, all of this stuff is off limits. And so it's no wonder you're not going to be able to sustain that forever. But diet culture is like more self-control. You got this, just more willpower. Just because if we think that, we'll keep spending money. We'll keep investing in it. For as long as we think it's our fault, we'll keep doing it.
They're making lots of money at our expense at the end of the day. And they're being very the marketing is getting really good, because I saw a Noom commercial the other day.
Oh my God.
Basically, it had an older guy on there. Like, he wasn't their target demographic, but they're marketing it to everyone and saying, this is a lifestyle change. But at the end of the day, the goal is weight loss, which is not what we want to do. At least that's,
excellent point.
Sometimes happens, but it shouldn't be the goal.
Excellent point. So actually what happens and you mentioned the word survival. The body is not designed to support intentional weight loss. It's designed to help us survive. And so when we are intentionally trying to lose weight, the body ramps up hunger hormones and cravings because it wants us to be fed. It's like, I just know that I need my basic needs met. I'm not sure what this food restriction is, but it seems like there's food scarcity, so I'm going to conserve. So the body, like, by nature, is not designed to support whatever we're trying to do with this food restriction. So you're right. If there is a plan or a program that tells you it is possible to sustain weight loss, like if you are intentionally losing weight and you can keep it off forever, that is a lie. Bodies don't work that way. And so what has happened in the marketing is Noom is a perfect example. They've co-opted the language of intuitive eating, and they say that it's a psychological thing, right? It's a mindset thing, which is just, again, gaslighting in its purest form, saying that the issue is you just haven't gotten your mind right yet, and that's why you haven't been able to keep the weight on.
It's never been about I think the thing for me with dieting is it was never about accepting myself exactly as I am. It was about trying to attain a thinner body, and me being shamed or shaming myself that I couldn't do that. And so when maybe just genetically and physiologically my body's just not meant to be the ideal thin body, right? I'm just genetically not disposed to that. And I think we've talked about this a little bit too. There's a grieving process involved with that, of like understanding and realizing that, like, okay, this is the body I have, and I'm going to work on respecting it and taking care of it and being okay with exactly as I am. Because I think with our society and with diet culture, we're always told that we're not enough. We always have to be thinner or smarter, or we have to do stuff to our bodies to be more attractive. Anti-aging is an example. All these serums and stuff. It's like, we have to improve all the time, and it just gets tiring. And I got to the point where I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. This is just killing my overall wellness. It was affecting every part of my life, where I couldn't, at work, I couldn't stand in front of a group of people confident enough to share what I had to share, because I was so like thinking about my body and what people were thinking about me and what I was wearing. It was just so much to hold on to, that once you let go of all of that and just live your life and treat your body the way that makes it feel good and move the way that makes you feel good, you have a lot more space to really do things that you love and are passionate about. And so it all works together. It's not just food. It's not, for me, it hasn't just been food. It's been everything.
It's never just food. I mean, thank you so much for sharing that, Nancy. You're so eloquent. I mean, you're such a good example of how you've been more confident at work, like, so, and you're going out to festivals, and you're going out on the lake, like just doing the things that you maybe would, like, that body shame would hold you back from in the past. I've had clients who, after our first like 3-month program together, they've started podcasts, they've written books, they've released art galleries, like all of these things that they were too afraid to do before. Yeah. So it's never just about food, but we can't fully step into our power and our purpose if we're hungry, if we're constantly and if we're obsessed with food and our bodies. Yeah. Like, how can you have the space, the capacity to do the things that are going to enrich your life if you're just obsessed about the way that you look all the time and about what you're eating?
Or what you're putting in your body. Like, if you're calculating everything, I mean, there's just not that much space to focus in other things. If you're constantly, I mean, I remember MyFitnessPal, I'd track everything, like every single thing I drank, everything. I mean, I would measure, weigh food. I mean, and it never worked because I would binge at the end, right? Because I wasn't eating enough during the day. And then at night, it would be that I'm eating at night, in secret, you know. It's a very dark place to be. And it's just, you get to a point where you're just like, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't know, you know, I don't know. It was just a big change for me where I was like, okay, I've done this my whole life. It's obviously not working. Let's try something else.
Yeah. Obviously. Yeah, I'm so glad that you realized, like, okay, obviously this hasn't worked for me. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And that is what, like, diet culture is so insidious, where they make it seem like this is different, this is healthy now, it's wellness, it's a lifestyle change. And it's like with Noom, or now with like paleo and keto, they're saying it's not a diet because we've gotten hip to the fact that diets aren't cool anymore. Diets don't work. Diets are restrictive. Nobody likes being on them. But this is just a new wave of dieting. It's not any different. And it's going to keep you disconnected from your body. It's going to keep you out of, you're going to continue to not be able to trust yourself around food, and you're going to end up binging. And it's not your fault. Like, you're Nancy, like, being brave enough to have these honest conversations around, like, I was eating in secret. Do you know how many women have told me they eat in secret?
It happens more than people talk about. But I want to say this one thing, because this just came to mind. Because I have a lot of friends that are super, like, they're really careful about what they eat, and they track everything. And for years, like, I would see that they had so much control over food, and they would eat all this healthy food all the time, and it felt like that was what they wanted, and it probably is. But to me, it always felt like, well, I want to be like that. I want to love my body like they do, but I don't have the willpower to eat like they do. And so I was comparing myself to all these other people of how they were eating and how they were feeding their body and moving their body. And that's another thing too. Maybe we can go into that with movement. It's like they were doing movement that physically was difficult for me. And so I would automatically shame myself and say, I can't do that, so I must be not right. I must not be in shape if I can't do box jumps at a CrossFit gym. You know,
there's so much here, Nancy. Like, I feel like
I mean, there's so much to talk about. But
this
anyway,
could be an all-day workshop.
Yeah.
No, this could be an all-day workshop, like, or a weekend. Like, I swear. So yeah. I would like to talk about fitness and movement. And then you mentioned earlier, because like this body comparison or comparing lifestyle to lifestyle. Let's make it clear right now that we don't, like, the issue is not with the dieter. The issue is with diets themselves and diet culture. We're just all trying to do there's a fruit fly. We're all trying to do the best we can for our health. And so, but is that really healthy? If you are if you are measuring lettuce, like, you get to a point where
I've done it. I've measured lettuce on a food scale before. Yes.
Like, and is that really wellness? Like, is that really the quality of life you're after? And is, like, box jumps, like this type of, like, if that's your jam, fine. I know, like, for me, when I used to be into that CrossFit style exercise, it was not at all about self-care or personal wellness. It was punishing my body, because it was compensating for binge eating. And it was trying to make my body smaller, which might not be physically possible for everybody because body diversity exists. So you mentioned genetics, right? Like bodies don't work this way, in which like where you can just pick what size you want to be and you can get there and stay there. Like you can't just pick. Like
they make you feel that way. They make you feel like you can get down to a size 12 and flatten your belly, you know, all this other crazy stuff that they put on magazines. And it's a market of comparison, right?
Yeah.
I remember as a little girl, we would be in the grocery store in line and I would see these women's magazines with like these women that says lose belly fat in 14 days, you know, kind of thing. And it was just constant advertisements of like thinness, shrink your body, you can do this, you know, and it just seemed, you know, unattainable. And it's unattainable because we're not all genetically disposed to have the same type of body. And you've told me, like, if we all exercise the same way, we all eat the same thing, we will not all be the same size. That's not how our bodies work. So I think the first thing for me was coming to terms and really respecting that, like, my body is the way it is. This is who I am. And I can't compare my journey to someone else and their success or whatever, you know, where they are in their journey. So.
Yeah. And you're right. There is some grief involved in that, which is why it's super important to get support to walk through that of, okay, if I've been trying to change my body my entire life and I've been trying to get it down to a certain size and I still haven't managed to get there, then like there has to be this reckoning, right? This like, okay, well then at a certain point there needs to be an acceptance. And so, but what is incredible is acceptance is, and this is what Dr. Bacon says in Health at Every Size. They say it's not giving up, it's moving on. And once you accept, you are able to access this whole new level of like like genuine self-respect and self-love. And from that place, it's so much easier to make health promoting decisions.
Yes.
Will you talk about that?
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about this in our individual sessions, but for me, my mantra that I've told you and that I continuously say to myself every day is, Nancy, you deserve health. You deserve to feel good. You deserve these things. And so the choices that I make with food, the movement that I do, and just letting go of all that control and just letting my body do what it does is a self-respect thing.
Yes,
so if I'm tired, I'm going to rest. If I feel like I got to move, I'm going to go move. Like I was on an airplane, you know, I've been on vacation. And so I got back yesterday or day before, and I can just tell that I need to move my body just because I've sat in the car a lot. I've sat in a plane. And so once you start to respect your body and start to listen to, I call her because that's who my body is. I say, I listen to her. She tells me what she needs. If she's hungry, then I'll feed her. If she's thirsty, I'll give her, hydration. It just is being in tune and having an actual relationship with your body rather than fighting against it. And I think we talked about that yesterday is when I was dieting, it was always my body was wrong. My body was wrong. I had to get my body to do what I wanted it to do. But when I let go and just let my body do what naturally she's supposed to do, it's just amazing. It's like hunger cues came back, fullness cues are getting better. I can really understand where there's pain in my body if I'm moving in a certain way or if I've sat too long. It's a relationship at the end of the day. It's all about respecting your body and realizing that she's carried us through a lot of stuff. And when you respect something, you want to take care of it and you want to make sure that they're all right. And so that's where I'm at with my relationship with my body, and all that has to do with clothing and all that, because that was a big thing for me is I covered up. I wear pants in the middle of the summer just because I didn't feel confident enough and I was afraid that people would look at me and all of this. But then when you start to really think about your body and respecting your body, you start to think, okay, it's like 95 degrees in North Carolina and it is super hot. I'm going to put on some shorts because my body will feel better that way and I'll be more comfortable and I'll be able to participate in activities that I'm doing with friends or whatever instead of worrying about heat and clothing and all of that. So,
and that's the Health at Every Size paradigm, which is a social justice movement that says all bodies are worthy of dignity and respect. And that translates to you individually knowing that your body is worthy of comfort at any size.
Yes.
And the framework we use, it's an evidence-based model called intuitive eating for anybody who's not familiar with it. It's been around for 25 years. It's backed by research, and it's rooted in self-care and self-compassion. And so once you've established those things, you're right that you're no longer disconnected from your body, and instead you come home to her and you have this really positive, healthy working relationship with her. And you're no longer self-objectifying. You're no longer viewing your body as an object and working against it. It becomes a her. It becomes personified. Yeah. It's embodied, right? Like you have this really positive working relationship with her. And doesn't that feel so much better than constantly trying to push, make your body something that it's not? And that's not healthy. That's just not, it's not health.
Well, and I want to mention too, like, I don't love every part of my body every day of the week. I think that that's important to kind of share, is like, a lot of women think that they're supposed to love every part of their body all the time. And then that's what body acceptance is. It's not. It's having true respect for your body, regardless what happens to it. And you know, if you've had a baby or you've carried, you know, I don't know, you've traveled or done a lot of stuff physically with your life, or you know, our bodies change as we age and get older, and life changes, and we gain weight, we lose weight, we do all this stuff. And why can't we normalize that instead of trying to constantly strive for thinness that's sometimes not attainable in certain areas of our life? Sometimes, you know, people that have had babies, friends of mine, their body changes because hormones change when you create a baby in your body. Like, you know, I have tons of friends that are like, I got to get rid of this baby weight. I talked to a girlfriend the other day. She told me about it. And I said, your baby is 12 weeks old. You just birthed a human being. Like, let's give ourselves some self-compassion here and just realize that, like, you just did something huge. Like, that's a huge deal, you know? And I think sometimes we forget about that. We forget to, like, give ourselves some slack and just accept our bodies and be thankful that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, basically carrying us through life.
Thankful, right? Like you've cultivated this massive sense of body gratitude of like, I'm just thankful for all of the amazing things that my body can do. And your other people are picking up on that in your life, and you're teaching others, just like modeling by example, which I think is so inspiring. God, you're right. Like just that level of self-respect for your body, it changes everything. And I think about for how long we've participated in diet culture, and diet culture, like we talk about it a lot, but for anyone not familiar with the term, it's a system of beliefs that worships thinness, that elevates thinness, and it demonizes certain foods and food groups, and it oppresses people that don't fit into its standard of beauty. And I think that's like, to me, this is why I'm so passionate about, and why it's a social justice thing, is this is an oppression. Like diet culture is oppressive, and it promotes weight stigma, which is an oppression. And so in your personal life, Nancy, we talked about this yesterday. Like if there are people in your life in smaller bodies who might make a comment that said about who people in your life in smaller bodies who talk about dieting, or who say, I feel fat, or who are actively trying to make themselves smaller, how does that make you feel in a larger body than them?
As someone that's always been in a larger body, that's just who I am. It really, when I hear my thinner friends mention either diet or that they need to lose weight, it really, I take that on or I used to, not so much anymore, but I put that on myself and say, if they think they're fat, they must think I'm humongous, and they have these feelings about me that like they're not telling me, and they're just, you know, they're all these things would come in my mind, and I would create this narrative of, and it would really impact my relationship with people, because my lack of self-confidence about myself, I would take assumptions that I've created in my brain about what they think about me and what they think about bigger people. So when I hear a thinner body, back then I would hear someone say, oh, I'm fat, or I need to lose weight. It would really make me examine myself, and then I would shame myself, and then I would go do a diet or whatever the next day, because I would feel like, well, if they think they're fat, then the world must think I'm just way out of hand. You know, that's how I would feel whenever I would hear that stuff. And they're not doing that intentionally,
Right.
right? That's just their own journey. But I think a lot of people, no matter what size body you're in, if you're constantly sharing with your friends about how you hate your body and how you need to do this, it really has an impact on other people too, about people in your circle that maybe internally they're starting to think about themselves and really start to shame themselves too. So it can be really hurting. It would be hurting.
Yeah, I just encourage anyone watching to examine their own internalized fat phobia and to be extra aware of, am I making fat phobic comments? Go ahead.
Oh, well, and I had to come to terms with my own fat phobia because
Yes.
I have fat phobia too. You don't have to be in a thin body to be fat phobic.
Correct.
If you think about fat is bad because that's what diets tell you. That's what magazines say. That, everyone, there's a thin ideal to attain. And if I am, in a bigger body and I'm trying to participate in something, I have fat phobia that I'm too fat to do this, or I'm in, my body will look a certain way. And it's, and so I was striving for thinness because I was so scared to be super fat, which I was really overweight for a long time. Mobility was an issue, but I was still healthy. I didn't have any issues with my body, but I was told over and over again by doctors and by all these people, you got to lose weight. You got to lose weight, because if you don't have problems now, you're going to have problems later, right? Like they could tell in the future that my body was going to do this.
Isn't that interesting, Nancy, that you were what they would classify as overweight, but your health was fine, right?
Yeah, I had no issues. I had no blood pressure issues, none of that.
We could talk about this all day. But Nancy knows in our sessions, I just get fired up sometimes. But
yeah.
This is the health at every size paradigm, which is to say that weight does not equal health. It is totally possible for a person in a larger body to be perfectly healthy, just like it's possible for a person in a smaller body to be sick. And that is why when people argue for like, but you're like promoting obesity.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like weight does not equal health. So that's the whole thing.
We could get on a whole conversation about that.
I know. And also weight loss is not a responsible prescription, because again, it's everything we talked about at the beginning of this live. If you're encouraging somebody to go toward disordered eating and an eating disorder, because they're going to start restricting their food. If they take this weight loss prescription seriously, they're going to start restricting their food, maybe over exercising, and doing things that ultimately won't be sustainable, that are harming their health, that are virtually guaranteeing poorer health. And so you're going to get the opposite outcome. And losing weight inherently doesn't make you healthier. But okay, so let's talk about back to body image. So when people now, if people in your life make fat phobic comments, I mean, you've done a lot of examination of your internalized fat phobia, and you're right that fat phobia harms everyone, because people in larger bodies then feel shame. They feel like their bodies are too big, and people in smaller bodies have this intense fear of weight gain. So it harms everyone across the spectrum of body size. But I think the difference, like a big difference for you now, Nancy, is to know that your weight doesn't dictate your worth. So even if somebody makes a fat phobic comment like that, it doesn't make a difference in terms of your self-esteem, your levels of self-love. And that speaks to what you were saying about body positivity. The goal is not to be like, I love all parts of my body all of the time. Body image work, and it's a relationship, and you're going to be doing this work for your entire life. But what we arrive at is like just this separation of weight and worth, knowing that my body size, my body's always going to be changing, but that doesn't change the way I feel about myself as a person. And I know that my body is good regardless of how it looks, and I don't let my appearance, like body image is being able to see yourself as more than just your appearance. Like that is like kind of the end goal of body image.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, a lot of our society, and how I was raised anyway, is that how you present yourself to society in your physical body makes who you are, which is just a lie. Like we're more than our bodies. Our bodies just, we inhabit our bodies. So who I am, my personality and all that about me is more important than my physical shell of a body, right? I want to take care of this because I can live longer and all that, but like, and respect myself, but really realizing the other things that I can bring to the table and not have such a shallow view of, well, only people look at me physically. They don't really care about the other things about me, right? Like, I think it's important to really think that, like, okay, we're more than a body. Our bodies are what they are, and we work to accept them and love them, but really to work on the internal stuff of how we feel about ourselves and how we present ourselves, you know, with our body image. Because when we're confident about ourselves and we show up at work or at church or whatever in front of other people, and people see you loving yourself wholeheartedly, that's like addictive. They want that too. So that's why I'm so excited to share this, because it's like there's freedom outside of like self-loathing and shame and constantly thinking that you're not good enough. You know? And I'm still working on it. It's a daily journey, right? But I think every day you wake up and say, okay, what do I need? What does my body need? And then once you've fulfilled those needs, then you can really go out and do other things.
Yeah, absolutely. It allows you to show up as your best self. And it does impact relationships in a big way. The more you can see yourself as more than a body, the more you can see more in other people as well. Because when we are judging our bodies so harshly, we think that we're not doing it to other people, and we say, I don't think, I'm not fat phobic, but it's like, if you're that judgmental of yourself, you are judging other bodies. And it definitely keeps us in this place of shame. So I would love to talk more about your personal experience. If you still have time, Nancy, you went from all these diets, even weight loss surgery, and I think like weight loss surgery, there is this idea with weight loss surgery that it's like, it is this like very magical solution that will change your life permanently for the better, and you will never have any other problems, and you'll feel incredible in your body. And I just think it's important to note that, like, if that is the route that you want to take, you have body autonomy. You absolutely can do that. Just know that that's not going to solve the body image or the relationship with food.
Can I speak on this? So I've met a lot of people that are in intuitive eating, in groups that I'm in, that have had weight loss surgery, and some regret it. Some feel like it was a worse decision. For me, it was the right decision for me at the time, but it did nothing for my body image. It did nothing with my relationship with food. In fact, it made it worse on both accounts. So if I would have known about intuitive eating and health at every size before I got surgery, then I would have really worked on that, because you think at the size that I was, I had some traumatic experiences where I felt like the only way out of this, and it was kind of fight or flight for me, was I got to lose the weight so I can live, right? Not live like my health wasn't in jeopardy. It was like I was just experiencing some really bad fat phobia in my life, and I didn't have the strength to really hold that, right? So for me, the only way was to lose weight, and I thought that was going to solve things, and it didn't. And I lost a lot of weight. I didn't get to my goal weight that the doctor said that I need to be, but I did lose weight. I gained some back, but it did nothing with my relationship with food. I was still really I thought there was good foods and bad foods, because when you have weight loss surgery, it's all about diet. It's all about restriction. You can only have this much. You have to have this much protein. You have to have this many carbs. And so it was kind of a fear instilling of like, if you don't have this much protein, you're going to have these issues for the rest of your life, right? Yes. Big pressure.
Yeah, big pressure.
And, so anyways, for me, it was, I wish I would have known more before, but it was a great tool for me to get really excess weight off that was not really helping me be mobile. I could hardly walk down the road. But anyways, it did nothing for my body confidence, because when you lose that much weight, your body changes, skin starts to get looser, and then you start to hate your body even more, because anyways, it's all about like thinness. That's the goal. So anyways, for me, it's intuitive eating is the way to go. If you really kind of internalize, like, okay, I want to really focus on food freedom and not restricting, and then letting my body do the rest. That's really what it's about.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you shared that, Nancy, because I think there are a lot of people who they have tried every diet and they're at their wit's end and they think that weight loss surgery is their only option. And I just want them to know that there are other options, and for them to hear from you firsthand what you went through is invaluable. And you're not my only client who's had weight loss surgery, and I've heard this. It's consistent with what I've heard, just that body image gets worse. And there's research to support this, that body dissatisfaction increases after weight loss surgery. Disordered eating is exacerbated by weight loss surgery.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's just what the surgeons won't always tell you, because it's a very high paying surgical procedure.
It's expensive, and they get multiple visits. You know, there's insurance requirements and all of that. And I'm not saying that it's not the solution for some people. It is.
Sure, yeah.
I've known patients that it saved their life. Like they were really sick and it saved their life. But for people like me that had no comorbidities, and I was at a high weight, but I wasn't unhealthy, but I felt like that was the only way. It was kind of the only way. And I was just so sick of being fat. And it wasn't because it was because I didn't love myself. I thought that I wasn't good enough in a bigger body, and so I felt like I had to shrink myself down, which is the same thing that people do with diets. It's the same. Yes. It's the same goal, whether it's weight loss surgery or you're doing Weight Watchers and going to meetings on Wednesday nights. You're still striving for thinness because you don't like the body that you're in. That's really the root of it.
Yes. Yeah. God. This is heavy, and it's like. There's so much here. I lost my train of thought, because it's like I like want to just jump on everything that you're saying, because it's all so good.
I think just the important part is, like, we really have to reevaluate why we're dieting.
Yeah.
Why are we really like doing this? Because I have friends that, you know, say, well, I ate mac and cheese last night at 11 o'clock. I shouldn't have done that. I got to get on keto tomorrow, or I need to drop this baby weight. And that now I start to ask why. I ask a lot of why questions. I'm like, why do you want to lose weight? You're healthy, you know, why do you want to do this? And when you get down to the root of it, it's just people don't want to be fat. That's really what it is. And it's their internalized fat phobia of like, fatter bodies are less human, or they don't deserve dignity, or they're lazy, right? Yeah.
Yes, I hear you. And I think I want to go back to something that you said about the weight loss surgery that ties into this, where you were like, I had been through some trauma, some fat phobic experiences. People were less than kind to you. And that's weight stigma, right? That's what you just described with the mac and cheese. Like, this is all weight stigma. But you also said, you were like, my health wasn't necessarily at risk, but like emotionally, I didn't have the capacity to keep living as a large person. But weight stigma, that oppression, that trauma does put your physical health at risk. It
does. Yeah.
So weight stigma in healthcare and just in the real world, that is what puts us at risk, if anything. Like, and so people in larger bodies, if they are in poorer health, a big part of the reason they're in poorer health is due to that weight stigma. And it's due to the trauma. It's a stress response. It's inflammatory, and they don't get adequate medical care. I mean, I don't want to get on a whole thing about this, Nancy, but we talk about this a lot, where it's like, people in larger bodies, they don't receive proper diagnoses. Things get overlooked because doctors are just like, just lose weight. And you're like, I came in here for a rash on my hand. Like,
it happened to me in a dermatologist. Another time, I told you this, I went to a gynecologist, and she was so like sure that I had PCOS. Like, she's like, you have it. At your weight, you have it. You have like, you know, you don't get a period every 28 days or whatever. And we did blood work, and it said I did not have PCOS. And she's like, you have it. What was happening was I had such disordered eating, and I was dieting on and off, that I lost my period. I couldn't, like, my health was, and I didn't realize at the time. She made me feel like it was my weight, you know? So
Nancy, I don't even know where to put that information. Like,
I'm just saying, like, as a bigger body person, and I'm sure people listening to this live or that are in bigger bodies can attest to this. When you go to the doctor, that's automatically the diagnosis.
I know.
You're overweight.
I know.
Lose the weight, you'll be fine.
It's like, I say I know, I can't pretend to know, because I acknowledge that I have thin privilege, and I hold space for your stories, and I'm so grateful that you share them with us. But the reason I'm like, I know, is because I've heard this over and over again. And I know, I know that this weight stigma in healthcare is a massive problem, and nobody's asking you about your relationship with food. And I think it's also really important to note that eating disorders don't have a look. You can't just look at like people in larger bodies, like they call it atypical anorexia now, where it's like, people who have anorexia don't always meet this weight requirement, and you can't look at somebody and know what their relationship with food is like, or you can't look at somebody and know anything about them based on their body size. But I think it's so messed up that the doctor's like, because of your weight, you must have PCOS, right? They make this assumption, and they don't ask anything about relationship with food, even though like losing a period is a very classic symptom of restrictive eating.
Right.
But they wouldn't assume that you restrict your food because you're in a larger body.
Well, because their medical advice is restricting food and dieting is the solution.
Right.
If I go and diet and restrict my food and restrict my calories, calories in, calories out, that's what they say, then everything will magically be better. That's just how it is. So anyways, it's in a bigger body, it's definitely to find, I think one thing that I've really kind of discovered working with you two is body autonomy and advocating for my body.
Yes.
I'm still working on it, but like going to the doctor, advocating for my health and just saying, look, I'm hoping that I will have the courage down the road to say, look, I don't agree with this. This is not what I feel. This is not, let's talk about this. Because a lot of times we don't advocate for our bodies, and we just automatically assume that, now doctors are, we need them. They're great, but we know our bodies better than anybody.
Yes.
And so for me to go in and say, I'm here for this, let's talk about this, instead of like, let's talk about losing weight. Right. Cause that, being in a bigger body is automatically seen as unhealthy, and, carrying excess weight is blah, blah, blah. I'm healthy. I'm probably the most healthy I've ever been, and I'm not the thinnest I've ever been. So that's proof that like your body size doesn't dictate how healthy you can be.
Absolutely. And you're more confident than you've ever been, and you're not the thinnest you've ever been.
No, it's all up here, and it's all realizing that like I deserve help. I deserve to feel good, and whatever I need to do to make that happen, I'm going to do. If it's, if it's moving my body on a Saturday morning because I feel like I need a yoga class or something, then I'm going to do that. If I feel like I need to lay in bed 15 minutes, then that's self, like, I guess that's my way of advocating for myself too. A lot of us don't think about that, but when we choose rest when we need it, that's advocating for yourself too, and just saying, okay, this is health. Like repair and sleep and all of that helps repair all of this stuff. I mean, our bodies do all the work. We just have to let them do it,
Yes. Oh my gosh. We talked yesterday about how, like, imagine managing an employee, having an employee working under you that you're supervising, and you're constantly trying to do their job for them, and you're always asking them, what are they up to? What are they doing? You're following them around, right? That would be a very dysfunctional working relationship. And yet that's exactly what we do with our bodies. We try to control things that it's like your body already is doing that for you. Like, you don't need to be controlling your weight and your food. Your body knows how to do that.
Let's get down to trusting ourselves more, trusting our bodies to do what they're created to do at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And there are some times that I want certain foods that maybe nutritionally aren't going to like be the, they're not the, to give me energy, but sometimes you just need that. So like I've made peace with pasta, for example, and carbs are really good for us. We're told that they're horrible, but they're really good for brain function and all that. Like food has been demonized as good and bad. When it's balanced and you're not binge eating, you're not going to crave that stuff. You're going to crave like things that make you feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe we can speak a little bit more to your relationship with food now. I do want to be respectful of your time and wrap up here soon, but
oh, you're fine.
Back to just, and I want to make sure to caveat, like, we need healthcare providers. Like,
yes.
we need healthcare providers, and we need healthcare providers to treat all of their patients with dignity and respect. And for as long as we're giving intentional weight loss as a prescription, we're not aligned with treating all patients with dignity and respect. So we need you, doctors. We're not saying we don't need you, but we do need you to get on board with the health at every size paradigm.
Yes. Whenever I find a health at every size practitioner or someone on Instagram or something, you showed me one, you follow that. Like, and that's another thing too, is like scrubbing your social to really kind of understand and follow people that have your goals and values and your end goal in mind. Mm-hmm. So I scrubbed all my stuff. And so now it's a diverse of different bodies mm-hmm. and different folks. And it's really helped me on my journey to kind of say, okay, I'm not the only one in this. This is a whole community of people. And there's research and studies to back up this stuff. It's not just a belief. It's really like science at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's so important. Yeah, absolutely. And the social media stuff is important, just the environment that we surround ourselves in, and representation, right? Surrounding yourself with body diversity to know that your body's not a problem. Your body's normal. There are plenty of bodies that look like you that just aren't represented in the media. Right. So I can't believe it took us this long to even get to relationship with food, but do you have any thoughts, Nancy, just on how your relationship with food has changed over the past like couple of months since we started?
Oh my gosh. I felt like I was always battling against food. And I remember when I first started working with you, I would say, I'm addicted to food. Mm-hmm. I'm addicted to it, right? I would say, I can't stop myself. Mm-hmm. And it was really that I was malnourished and I was mm-hmm. just hungry is what happened. Mm-hmm. And so when I started to really feed my body and start to eat until fullness and eat when I'm hungry, no matter what time it is, getting outside that block of like eating at 8, eating mm-hmm. at 12. That was a big thing for me. Once I changed that and I'm eating when my body tells me to eat, whatever it is, and I'm mindful about, okay, what sounds good? What does my body need right now? I'm not binging. And so I've been able to make peace with a lot of foods that I thought were, kind of a crutch for me, pasta being one of them. I kind of like stayed away from it because I was so afraid of it, because mm-hmm. you talk about like, you hear people say pasta will, you'll gain weight, you'll get fat, blah, blah, blah. And so, but pasta, I would buy gluten-free because I thought it was better, right? Mm-hmm. It was a better choice. But working with you, I was able to buy all these different kinds of pasta. And one week I ate a ton of pasta and nothing happened. I wasn't sick. I didn't, nothing happened. Yeah. So it was kind of that exposure of me eating it whenever I wanted it. And now there's 4 bags of pasta sitting in the pantry. I have no craving for them, but if I want it, then I'll make it. And it's not a bad food anymore. I also have a whole drawer of chips that are going stale because I haven't eaten them. So when you open the door to have those foods available to you, and sometimes you might just want a bite of some popcorn or something, not a whole bowl, but having the freedom and the permission to kind of eat what you want, then you start to really be mindful of what you're putting in your body at that time. So, okay, I'm hungry. I just had a workout or I moved my body. What sounds good? And sometimes it's, some protein, some chicken or, whatever. It's really fun now to kind of really think about what I want to eat. And I've talked to you before when I'm traveling for work, sometimes it takes me 30, 45 minutes sometimes to decide what I want because there's so many choices.
Yeah. And it won't always take you that long, but isn't it so good that's a good problem to have, that we don't have this severely limited menu, because that is what leads to malnutrition. That is what leads to feelings of food addiction. That's what ultimately leads to binge eating, when we have this severely limited menu of you can only choose from these couple of things, which is why intuitive eaters, people who have this more mindful and intuitive relationship with food, end up being better nourished than dieters. And so this is golden, Nancy. I'm so glad you brought this up. It's gold that you were like, I felt addicted to food. In reality, I was just malnourished. And I just had a lot of food rules and restrictions that were causing me to feel addicted to food, which is why the science doesn't support that food addiction, that there's a lot of validity behind this idea of food addiction, because most people are just starving or they have all these restrictions around food, and like our bodies need food. And so like,
well, right. And if you're craving a donut, you probably need carbs because you've been cutting them out. You don't necessarily want the donut. Your body craves the nutritional value of the carbs because your brain needs carbs.
Yes, you're right. Our
So
bodies are not stupid. Like these cravings tell us something.
Yeah. So like if I'm craving chocolate, like dark chocolate, it might be something in that chocolate that my body needs.
Yes.
If I crave a big salad, I might need, a lot of vitamin A or K or whatever. Like it's all about listening to your body about what sounds good, because our body craves what we need. And so and taking the morality out of the food and saying, oh, donuts are bad or chips are bad. And, it's no work with that. Just kind of listen to your body and have, when food's accessible to you, and you know that it's going to be there, you don't binge. At least that's my experience.
Yeah, that's the premise. And I was going to say morality, like it's evident to me that you've removed morality. So there's not as much shame and guilt attached to food, because you're able to say like, okay, so my body's craving this, or I feel the need to eat more of this today. That must mean that my body needs whatever it is. It's not like, oh, I need to fight against this and resist it, right?
Yeah, well, and that's what diet culture has you doing. We're constantly fighting against our body's innate performance, like what it wants. And so once you make all foods available and all foods have no good or bad, then you really can make informed decisions about what feels good in your body. And it's a practice. It's something I'm still learning, but it's getting better as I go. So.
Nancy, will you like start a podcast or write a blog or become a coach?
I don't even know how to do that.
You're so good. It's been so incredible to watch your journey. Do you have anything else that you wanted to share today, just about what you've gone through these past couple months?
I think like for people that are watching this later or are really thinking about intuitive eating and they've been dieting their whole life, like it's okay to let go and just trust your body, and to know that like you're more than your body size or what you look like. There's a lot more inside that we've neglected through diet. And when we really start respecting our bodies, then we want the best for them. And when you really start realizing and believing that your body is there to push you to do things that you are passionate about, then you want to take care of it. So that's the big thing for me.
Thank you for sharing that. And this idea of trusting your body, I think, can sound like almost woo-woo to people, or they can't really get a grasp on it. And so I'm just a really big advocate for professional support there, because it's true. Like some people have lost the ability to be in touch with their hunger and fullness cues, or they can't trust their hunger and fullness cues. They don't feel like they can trust their body. Sometimes there's trauma there. And so it's hard to walk this walk alone. And for anybody watching this, you deserve support. You deserve support.
Yes.
So what would you say to anybody, Nancy, who's considering getting support and maybe is just like afraid to take the leap?
You need to get to the point where I had to get to, where I deserve help. I deserve to invest in myself and really think about what's best for me. And that is surrounding myself with communities of people that really want me to strive to be my best self. So find a good therapist, find a good health coach like Maria, and then find, if movement is something you want to make peace with, because I had to make peace with movement instead of it being this chore and horrible thing, to find, a studio or a group of people that really just want to move for fun. And when you're moving the way that feels good and that's fun, you'll want to do it more. So just surround yourself with community and know that you're not by yourself, and that investing in your health and your well-being, not just physically, but mentally, is really important.
Yeah. And thank you. And you're right that this whole journey is about the whole person well-being. It's not just physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's relational. So these past, Nancy, we've been together for 10 weeks. Has it been worth it for you?
100%. I'd do it again. 100%. Yeah. Changed my life.
Thank you for saying that. It has been such an honor to work with you and such a pleasure. And I'm so grateful that you generously gave us your time today. Thank you for being so brave and honest. Like, these are hard conversations to have, and you're so transparent. And this, for anybody watching this, they just got massive, just gold. They just got gold. Let's Venmo Nancy. Let's all just Venmo. Nancy, what's your Venmo?
No, but we deserve freedom. We deserve freedom from diet and like exercise that's horrible and feeling yucky about ourselves. We're better. We deserve more than that. 100%.
Yes. I can't agree more. Nancy, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so grateful for you, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Yay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right. Y'all have a great weekend. Bye.